What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 244 of Boys in the Booth. Cody, Abrams, and Melbourne, all three of us back for this one. And fellas, just like that, we're down to two teams left in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and it's going back to last year. It is the same two teams in back-to-back years playing for Lord Stanley. It will be the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers looking for revenge on the Panthers after coming back and coming up short, losing in Game 7 in Florida last year. The Panthers going to their third consecutive Stanley Cup final, Edmonton going to back-to-back finals. And both teams, fellas, before we get into our predictions here and our conversation here, both teams had very similar conference final series where they just dominated the opposition in the Carolina Hurricanes on the Florida Panthers end of things, eliminating the Hurricanes in 5 games, and the Edmonton Oilers just causing all kinds of problems for the Dallas Stars, eliminating them in 5 games. Things got really ugly for Dallas in the last 3 games of that series. In the last 3 periods, fellas, Edmonton holding Dallas to just 4 shots on goal, which is kind of a crazy stat from that one. So we've got Florida, we've got Edmonton. It's in Edmonton to start this series this time around, which I think is important to point out. Edmonton will have home ice advantage, and just looking forward to this rematch. You know, there's that great clip of Matthew Tkachuk in the handshake line after Game 7 last year, saying to McDavid, "We'll see you guys next year. You guys are too good." And now here we are, 8 or 9 months later. Your heart breaks for a guy like Zach Hyman, who is now out for the rest of the year. But again, great clip of him just in the middle of the room after that heartbreaking loss in Game 7 last year to Florida, saying to the guys, like, we'll be back. And here we are, Game 1, Wednesday night. Can't wait. I'll stop rambling here, and we'll get into
Just
our
getting started.
we'll
start rambling here.
We'll get into our predictions here. So Florida and Edmonton in the finals, second year in a row. What do we think? Case, take it away.
I'm really happy with the way this turned out. I think that they're the two most deserving teams to be in the finals, and it's also going to be so exciting. So much hate, and we love the hate in the playoffs, and them facing each other again. Like, memories are very short, and Edmonton's going to come out flying. Florida's hungry. They think they're way better than Edmonton. They've beat them before, so going to be a lot of hate. Going to be a lot of fun to watch. That being said, I tried to sit here and come up with some sort of play style or statistical advantage to pick a team to win this, and it's impossible, man. These guys are evenly matched. The two best 5-on-5 teams in the playoffs. Both teams have similar power play percentages. I guess Edmonton has a bit of a nod there, but Florida's more physical, so it just kind of teeters back and forth. And ultimately, I think that's going to lead to a 7-game series again, which is it's going to be so exciting. At the end of the day, I kind of have to go off vibes. Do I think Florida is the favorite? Yes, I do. That being said, we've all seen the statistic floating around. I think Harper sent it to me. I saw it. Someone posted it like before the playoffs even started, which is pretty crazy, but I'm going to say it anyways. There's been 3 times that teams have faced each other back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, and this is the 3rd time. The first 2 times, Gretzky, his first cup, beating the Islanders on back-to-back, and then Crosby, his first cup, beating Detroit on the back-to-back Stanley Cup final runs. The 3rd one, Connor McDavid is going to face Florida Panthers. Just that alone, like, you think about how hard it is to beat any team in the Stanley Cup finals, but how hard it is to beat a team back-to-back times in the Stanley Cup finals. I just, for that reason alone, I have to give the nod, and I hope I'm right for the sake of Canada, to Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers in 7 games.
the story would just be absolutely perfect case for so many reasons.
The rule of threes.
And how perfect would it be if Florida goes up 3-0 and Edmonton comes back and actually completes the comeback this year? Like, that would just be the cherry on top.
Oh.
And of course, them winning and McDavid getting his first after dominating the league for the last decade, and, you know, doing the same thing that Crosby did and Wayne Gretzky did. They're so similar in so many ways, those three players. You know, another comparison, another similarity is none of those guys winning the Calder Trophy. We've mentioned that before. Like, it just seems like the greatest of each generation kind of does the same thing. History repeats itself, and I want Connor McDavid to win it all this year. That being said, I have picked against the Edmonton Oilers in every single round this year. I picked LA in the first round against them. I said, the Oilers aren't going anywhere with Calvin Pickard and Stuart Skinner between the pipes. Then I picked against them in the second round and the third round. And here we are. Here they are in the Stanley Cup Finals. And I'm going to pick against them again for a different reason. I'm picking against them. I'm picking Florida in 7 games because I hope the Melbourne mush continues. I hope the Cup comes back to Canada for the first time since 1993, and I hope the Oilers take it. That's my pick. Florida in 7, but I'm really hoping that some voodoo is going on here with my pick.
I mean, there's like 14 Canadians on Florida, but we'll just forget about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about the crest on the front, you know, and not the names on the back,
and not the fact that it spends the most time in Canada in the summer every single season, but sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's like pretty much every team anyways, but like, yeah, Case, you wanted to look at some of the numbers, and of course I did the same thing. You know, in terms of offense, like at least 5-on-5, I think the Oilers get the edge, and then I guess their power play is pretty insane too. So I give the edge offensively to the Oilers, even though I think it's really, really close because Florida has scored at roughly the same clip in the playoffs in terms of goals per game and expected goals per 60 as well. Like, these teams are really, really close, but I think my heart, I do have to give the edge to Edmonton here. In terms of defense, I think it has to be Florida, despite McDavid's quote, last week when he said, all right, we can defend. I told you we can defend. You know, even though McDavid said that, I still give the edge defensively to Florida. And then in net, complete toss-up for me because you don't know which Stuart Skinner you're going to get between the pipes. Is it the guy who puts up a 45 save shutout or the guy who allows 4 on 12 shots? You know, it's a total Jekyll and Hyde situation. And if prime, you know, Vezina caliber Stuart Skinner shows up, then I think they potentially have the edge in net. But then, you know, if regular, you know, game 62 Stuart Skinner shows up and lets in 4 on 8 shots, then yeah, obviously the edge goes to the Cup champ and multi-Vezina winner in Bobrovsky. So that's how I think they sort of shake out. But like I said, I think overall Florida probably is the better team. I want to give them the edge. I am picking them, but in my heart, I really want the Oilers to win this one.
Yeah, when I think of it that way and just breaking down like offense and defense and play styles, you're right. It's very close, 5-on-5 in particular. And I think it comes down to how the teams score goals, though, that would give the edge to Florida for myself. And it's the reason why I say that they're the favorites. Edmonton kind of relies on scoring more on the rush and on counter plays and sometimes on the power play. But it's just like, but Bobrovsky's not the guy that you're going to just beat on the rush. You have to beat him by getting traffic, by getting pucks moving laterally and scoring on rebounds. And Florida defends that very well. That's how they defend. That's what they defend against. So sure, Edmonton's going to get a lot of counters and a lot of rushes, but I just don't think that that's the offense that really, you know, unlocks Florida. And on the flip side, Florida gets pucks to the net, gets chaos, scrambles, and bangs pucks in. And who is that going to work on? Either Edmonton goalies.
Yeah.
So when I really think logically, my gut tells me Florida, but I'm still going to stick with Edmonton.
Yeah. Well, you picked Florida from the very start to go to the Cup
they're
final.
the best team in the league in the playoffs. I mean,
yeah. And like in terms of creating offense, it'll be interesting to see what they do because you guys know I like listening to Real Kipper and Born. They have Steve Valiquette join all the time. He's the CEO of ClearSight Analytics, former goalie for the Rangers, most notably, and gives you all the stats about goalies, right? So that's the preamble on Steve Valiquette. Also the guy who said Instagram hockey, talking about Jack Hughes. But he really dislikes Stuart Skinner's rush game. So he'll tell you straight up, like, Stuart Skinner is one of the worst goalies in the league when it comes to defending off the rush. Like, rush chances go in against Stuart Skinner. But like you just said, Case, that the Panthers don't necessarily score off the rush. They're not really a rush team. They put it in a corner, go get it, create chaos and broken plays, and try to rip one from the slot when they get that opportunity. Or maybe it's in the crease and they try to bang one in. So I am interested to see how that offense generation might have to change in order to score on Stuart Skinner and sort of expose his biggest weakness. You guys know I'm not the biggest fan of Skinner, but I'm I'm strong enough to admit, I guess, that he is a good goalie and can elevate in certain scenarios. I just don't think off the rush is one of those scenarios, and I think that's what the Panthers are going to have to do to really get to him.
BetterHelp is the paid partner of this video. The new year is a blank space for you to write a new story. BetterHelp makes it more convenient to get you started. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy more comfortable and convenient. They carefully make sure therapists on the platform are well qualified, and their customer support team is there to help you if you have any questions. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform you can trust. Your next chapter starts today. Get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp online therapy at betterhelp.com/boysinthebooth in paid partnership with BetterHelp.
We interrupt this podcast to tell you about one of our favorite partners, Sign Up Expert. If you're a sports bettor, whether brand new, casual, or hardcore, listen very carefully because this ad is for you. Guys, line shopping for the best odds matters, and that's why any profitable sports bettor needs to be using multiple sportsbooks to maximize their profits. Thankfully, there's never been a better time to get signed up, and we're here to connect you with the best promotions industry-wide. When you use our link at signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth, you can get access to all the top sportsbooks in your region, along with a review of each platform and its unique benefits. Most importantly, all of these sportsbooks have valuable sign-up offers for new users, and when you register through our link, you will automatically receive the top offer at each one, allowing you to start line shopping right away with an enhanced bankroll. Guys, it's simple. When you use multiple sportsbooks, you ensure that you can always access the best available odds, which is key to successful and profitable sports betting. So if you want to take advantage of these incredible benefits and support our brand at the same time, please consider signing up for your next sportsbook through the link in the description down below, signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth. If you're planning on signing up for a new sportsbook anyways, you might as well use the link and support the boys. So one more time, that's signupexpert.com/boysinthebooth. This podcast is also sponsored by the absolute best ticket app out there, SeatGeek. SeatGeek takes the confusion out of buying tickets, making it quick and easy to get the best deals on tickets to your favorite sporting events. SeatGeek does this awesome thing where they score each ticket out of 10 based on its value, so you know if you're getting a good or a bad deal. If the tickets are green, for example, you better act quick and secure those things because that's a good deal, but if the tickets are red, maybe wait a bit before pulling the trigger and monitor the price in the app. SeatGeek just makes it way too easy. Anyway, here's the best part though. SeatGeek has completely hooked us up. Boys in the Booth listeners get $20 off their first purchase on SeatGeek with the promo code Boys in the Booth in all caps. So click the link in the description down below to download the app, and remember to get your discounted tickets using the code Boys in the Booth in all caps. Get great seats for a fraction of the cost with SeatGeek.
Yeah, come back around to me on who I think's going to win this, because I'm just so teeter-tottering right now. And
you already picked, no? You already picked.
Yeah, but I think, you know what, before even Harp even gets to chime in here, I'm going to go back on that. I don't want to be this guy, but I've just been banging Florida's drum all playoffs long.
He's wavering already.
And I am. And I've been talking about how good they are. And I even talked earlier in the season about the dynasty being created. I don't think I can go back on calling out the Florida series at the beginning as the winner being the cup winner. And I'm going to go back on what I said early in this episode.
Wow.
And I'm going to pick Florida in 7.
Unreal.
In real time, folks.
Check back in 5 minutes from now.
In real time, changing his mind. And also, Case, a couple things. Number one, back to your dynasty comment. People hated that. Oh my God. Or was it Harp who said dynasty in that clip? Whichever one of you guys said dynasty in that clip that we posted, we got about 15 comments saying, can't call it a dynasty until they win 3 times, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I think it was Harp on the recent clip, but earlier in the year, I said with their contract situation and the way they play,
right.
A dynasty could be forming.
Yeah. So that's people did not like that one. But if they win this year and they've gone to 3 straight, it's the same position as Tampa, right?
It's a modern dynasty.
Yeah, modern dynasty.
Yeah.
It's hard in the salary cap era to win. So,
and if I'm not mistaken, this is the 6th straight Stanley Cup final in the state of Florida.
that's right.
That's crazy, man.
That's right.
Like,
'Cause
who would have thought?
Weird. I'll tell you who would have thought.
Well,
All of
okay.
the agents.
Yeah.
What do you
Wow.
mean?
But,
Everyone
okay.
who's like, oh, all the players can get more money for less in Florida? Yeah.
Okay,
No,
listen.
no tax state, southern climate.
I hear you guys. I'm with you on that point. I've been banging that drum since back in 2019 when the Leafs needed to sign their free agents, their RFAs for the first time. But I think that point has been a little overblown over the past week or so. Like, since we've known that this is going to be the final and there is going to be a Florida team in the finals for 6 straight years. And of course it's Florida again, no state tax, look at all their contracts, blah, blah, blah. I think it's been a bit overblown because you look at how this team was built. We've talked about it over the years, like finding Gus Forsling off waivers, making a big splash with Sergei Bobrovsky, who wasn't good early in his contract with this team and then was, sort of found money after he found his game again. And finding bargain bin players, whether it was Mason Marchment, a couple of years ago, or Verhaeghe found a nice fit after being a castaway multiple times. Luosterainen, that's right. Like, they're able to find players, and it's not just being able to get those contracts signed. That's not the only reason why they're this good. It definitely helps keep them good for a while, when they go and sign Bennett this offseason for $6 million or whatever they do, when market value's 10 anywhere else. But I just want to say that point I think is a little overblown, even though I think it is valid.
I don't think it's overblown, but I also hear the side of like what Florida's done is pretty spectacular, especially when you look at kind of what they've given up to make the moves they do every single off season, but in particular the trade deadline, and you compare it to what Tampa was doing. And Tampa's giving up like full draft classes for Tanner Jeannot, and they gave up a ton to get Blake Coleman and a ton to get Hagel and a ton to get
Barclay Goodrow.
Yeah. Even like Bjorkstrand and Gord too this year.
Yes.
I mean, it's fine because they won cups, so like you can't harp on that too much. But I mean, Florida's right here, and they have not given up very much, and they're killing it in that aspect. But I mean, you look at the contract situation. You look at $10 million in the state of or province of Ontario. You're taking home $4.768 million. And then in the state of Florida, you get $6,077,000. So, I mean,
no, fair enough.
If I were an agent,
And you can try to structure your contract differently so that all of that money doesn't get taxed. But as we know from John Tavares's case, that'll send you to court against the CRA. So have fun.
Oh yeah, that's right. Jeez.
For that contract situation.
I don't know in what world he thought that made sense, but anyways, I guess in Toronto and Ontario you get all the sponsorships, so there's stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like all that money.
Well, and to your point, Chad, about Florida's situation with their contracts and where they are and the tax situation being a bit overblown, I agree a little bit. Like, here's the bottom line: if you are a good team and you win consistently every year, doesn't matter where you are, what your tax situation is, all of that. People want to go somewhere where they have a chance to win. When you look at Edmonton, like cold winters, Canadian market, all of that, but good ownership, great building, like one of the best, if not the best in the National Hockey League, brand new building, and, historic franchise. And they have, a couple of the best players on the planet and the best player on the planet in Connor McDavid, and have a chance to win every year. So just wanted to chime in with that. If you guys are good now, I'll just talk about my pick here, and that it's the Edmonton Oilers. I'm taking the Edmonton Oilers in 7 games. I do agree with that. I see this series going the distance, but Case, you mentioned that stat earlier about how Gretzky and Crosby, they won their first cups on a back-to-back against the same team from the previous year. And McDavid can do the same thing. Sports just has a way of lining things up so perfectly. Like, it is literally meant to be Connor McDavid's year to hoist the Stanley Cup with the Edmonton Oilers. It's meant to be. Like, it's you can write it out on the cup now with a blank line ready to fill in his name. Like, it is set up so perfectly. Now, aside from that, I'm taking Edmonton because I think they're a different team this year. I think they're deeper. I think they're better. They're meaner. They're healthier. And one word as well that I would use to describe this team this time around, going to their second straight Stanley Cup final, is calm. They're a calm team. And, you looked at McDavid and how he was talking after they eliminated the Dallas Stars, and he's just kind of like, business as usual. Like, he just talked about how, like, it's not as emotional as last year. That, like, it's like, okay, like, we learned from last year. We damn near almost came back, and we're here now, and not a shock. Like, we deserve to be here, and they've believed that all year long. And I look at the forward group. They're getting contributions from everybody. Again, I think they're meaner. Like, Florida's mean. Like, you have to punch them right back in the face. That's what they're going to do to you. But I think Edmonton is set up well to do that. I think having a healthy Evander Kane is big. A guy like Trent Frederick as well. Vasily Podkolzin smashes everything that moves. Like we've talked about, don't bring it up to Connor McDavid, of course, but they can defend a lot better. I think their blue line is deeper with the additions of guys like Jake Wallman and John Klingberg, by the way. Who thought that he was going to ever play hockey again? Just as an example. And look, like with Stuart Skinner and his goaltending, yeah, is it the prettiest? No. But guess what, guys? Like, all that matters this time of year is one word: win. At the end of the day, did you get the win? If it's 7-6, who cares? Like, it all that matters is that you get the win. And he has been just an incredible story for the Oilers. And again, losing Zach Hyman, who was just an absolute wrecking ball this postseason before getting injured, that is just absolutely heartbreaking. But again, I think that there is more than enough there for them to withstand that injury to Hyman. So I just think the Oilers are in a way better position now. They've learned from their experience last year to down the Florida Panthers and win the Stanley Cup in 7 games. So I'm going with Edmonton. And again, like, I just cannot get over how things are set up here for McDavid with what Gretzky and Crosby have done before, winning their first cups in a very similar fashion. So with all of that said, I'm taking Edmonton in 7. I just cannot wait for this to get going on Wednesday night.
That was convincing. Was it enough to convince Casey? Let's hear.
No, it wasn't, because
Damn
although
it.
I agree with a lot of what you said, I agree with the story being perfect. I agree with the team seeming different, like an air to them, as well as a bit of a meanness, which in this role of the playoffs, I don't know if fighting fire is going to work with the Florida Panthers, because they've been doing this all playoff long, and people have been punching them back in the face and taking penalties and getting scored on, i.e. Sebastian Aho. I sent that to the chat as soon as it happened. He punched a guy in the head. They went to the power play and scored. I was like, nice. So I don't know if that's going to work. And then the other thing I didn't agree with is the healthy part. They just lost a 50 goal scorer. And like you said, did one of you send me that he has beat his career high in hits in a season in the playoffs?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yes.
Over 100 hits.
So you're going to miss that. I also, Ekholm just came back. We have to assume he's like 80% or less playing.
That's
at
huge.
This point. We hear that every time you hear in the playoffs. And then I also just saw that Connor McDavid left practice with, something. He spoke to the training staff and then left for the remainder of practice. Even if he's not 100%, like even if it's 90%, that's still something. And that's also getting to the media. That Tkachuk and Bennett and all those guys are going to be going right after McDavid. They're going to do that anyways. But even more so now, it's like, well, we just got to keep pushing that injury, whatever it is. So I don't know if they're healthier than ever, but
I will say to that, sorry, Case, Knobloch did say that he's okay. Now, to your point, you're not going to say anything regardless, because
what's he supposed to say? He's probably cooked.
Well, he's playing with a right knee injury. You hear that?
Don't target it.
But my point is, like, to that, we understand, I think, now more than ever, why teams hold injuries so close to the vest, because guys target injuries. Like, I don't care what you say. They target injuries, especially the Florida Panthers. So, but I just think, like, they're like Bennett and Tkachuk and these guys, they're going to go at McDavid. Yes. But I see that, and I will raise you again, an Evander Kane, a Trent Frederick, a Corey Perry, a Vasily Podkolzin, guys that can give it right back to them. It's a hard thing to do against the Florida Panthers. Like, that's going to be really tough. But yeah, I have to go with Edmonton. I just really believe in what this team's got cooking here.
I will say this is to go ahead, Case.
One thing I want to point out about Florida, I've spent a lot of time watching Florida in the playoffs, probably the team I've watched the most, and it's their top four on the back end has to be mentioned. Forsling is incredible. Just the way he plays defense. He's not the physical guy on the team by any means, but his gap control and his stick is incredible. He gets the puck out no matter what. Ekblad, I've always been kind of like pretty low on Ekblad, but in the playoffs, man, he is hard to play against. He taking every single jab possible, every hit. He will get into the nitty gritty and is just blue collar getting the puck out of their zone. And Mikko Mikkola, I
unreal
shit on him at the Four Nations face-off. I said that he looked like a fish out of water with all that talent on the ice. But when it comes to the playoff hockey, he has been phenomenal. And to the point of jumping in on the rush and contributing on the offense, there's the one goal where you saw him dig the puck out of their corner, get it up the wall. It gets passed out, or I think he gave the headman pass after it came off the boards to him. And then he jumped it into the rush, hops on the left side, receives a pass, and puts it as top corner as you possibly can put a puck. I'm like, what am I watching? I thought this guy was a meathead, but he's just been contributing all over the ice, and it's been really fun to watch him. And yeah, he's been a difference maker. Another difference maker that we collectively have dumped on before is Seth Jones. And at a diminished contract, that contract is looking good right now because
with a lot of term too. Like they have him for the next several years.
Just just a difference maker on the power play. The puck moving, he's good. And
He was the best defenseman in the Leafs Panthers series by a country mile. Like
he was, and in that game 7 in particular, he was the best
Yeah.
player. Even a guy like Kulikov, again, like they find these guys, they bring them in, and we're like, okay, like again, like the Mikula contract and Kulikov and some of these guys. Even that Balinskis is not bad either when he comes in every now and then. Florida is just able to bring these guys into their culture, to their system, the way they do things, and these guys, their play is amplified. They're happy. They play well. Something that Elliot Friedman brought up recently was he heard this from Nate Schmidt. Nate Schmidt wouldn't specify who exactly said this to him, but when he first got to Florida in the preseason, he tried to make a play that he either pulled off or didn't or whatever. And he got back to the bench, and it was either like Reinhardt or Bennett or somebody got on him and said, hey, we don't do that here. Like, that is why they're successful. That is why the Mikulas of the world and these guys that you're talking about, Case, come in and they've got a new lease on life. Seth Jones, like, people were dumping on that acquisition, and the way that he left Chicago, like, being like he's being a crybaby and this and that. He's not even that good, but he's been unbelievable. Like that is a really good defense. Case, I know you want to jump back in here, and then I do want to talk about Edmonton's blue line a little bit in more detail, but why don't you get back in here?
I just kind of wanted to mention that Nate Schmidt is another guy that, like, we talk about what Florida does in developing players. I mean, he's a veteran at this point, but he's gotten, and to a lesser extent, a bump to his play similar to a Brandon Montour. Like, the way that they play are very similar. And Montour obviously was a whole nother beast. Like, he was insane when he went to Florida. But Nate Schmidt, it's a similar play style, and he got the bump. He got whatever bump Florida is able to give out. And you don't have to talk about, Kulikov and guys like that getting better when they go to Florida, because I'm well aware that Kulikov, Jesper Boqvist, Nosek, and Vanacek were all nothing in New Jersey. And then suddenly, like, Nosek last series in Carolina was playing like a top 6 winger. I'm like, what am I watching? What is this? Jesper Boqvist, they're like, yeah, let's shoehorn him in with Barkov. Like, all-star hockey player all of a sudden. I'm like, what the hell, man?
So fast.
Boqvist, but I was just going to say that, Chad. Like, he can fly, dude. That
He
Boqvist,
really can.
He's really good.
He turns it on, and like, because you don't pay attention to him most of the game, right? And then he turns the Jets on for a break, and it's like, who is this guy? Just flying up the ice. And talking about the Florida blue line, I wanted to mention too, like Case, you brought up Montour. Who would have thought at the start of the year that the Panthers, having lost Montour, who was one of their best defensemen last year, that their blue line would be just fine. Like, just fine. I mean, they had to go out and get Seth Jones, which, by the way, roll the tape. Like, at the time, I said nearly verbatim, of course this will work out. It's the Florida Panthers. I've hated on Seth Jones for years, but I've always had him in fantasy. So I've always had him in fantasy. You can check the notes. But because he, played a lot in Florida, or in Chicago before he went to Florida, but now he's properly slotted as, kind of like a 3, I guess you could say, like a 2-3, but he's been playing above that. So your expectations are kind of changed a little bit, and he's been exceeding them since he's got there. So he's been an incredible addition. And Case, going back to your point on Mikula, you're saying, like, that's a guy you're even noticing jumping up in the rush, making plays and whatnot. Like, it just goes to show that even though there are guys in the league who we think of as absolute butchers, right? Like mutants, like guys who just stand in the way of shots and bury you out front with cross checks. Like, these guys, they're there for a reason. They can do it all as well. They just don't always necessarily get the opportunity. And I want to give credit to Paul Maurice there for trusting his guys. Really, like, this is a team that just rolls its lines, and they trust every one of their lines, every one of their players for the most part. I know their fourth line forward group doesn't play as much as the other three. Like, really, like, some nights, they might play 7 minutes or so, but for the most part, they roll their lines, they trust their guys, and that's, I think, a culture thing coming from Paul Maurice, even though, I don't love listening to him in the media. I think he's, he loves himself. He loves to hear himself talk, but that's unrelated to how good he is in the room, I think, for this team.
How about Chris Knobloch too, guys? Guy's been in the league as a first-time head coach for like a year and a half, and he's going to his second straight Stanley Cup final. Like, it's just crazy. Since we've been talking about the Florida blue line, I did want to mention the Oilers blue line. Like, Evan Bouchard's playoff production is absolutely incredible. It really is. I know that on the defensive side, he can struggle at times, but the guy can run a power play. He's got a bomb of a shot and has just really turned into an elite defender over these last couple of years. Like, give Paul Coffey all the credit in the world for what he's been able to unlock out of Bouchard here. It's just been amazing to watch.
It sounds insane, but with Bouchard, is it literally just a care factor thing? Like, you watch him in the regular season, man, and like, he doesn't bend his knees. Like, he doesn't skate back. Like, he just, and if he is bending his knees, he's got his stick on his knees and his head down because the puck just went in his net, like. But then in the playoffs, it's like, oh, suddenly these games matter. He cares. And instead of scoring at a 0.6 points per game, he's over a point per game as a defenseman. Like, he turns it on for whatever reason. Some guys just have that care factor that kicks in. He's one of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't burn the candle down until you need to see in the dark.
No,
hey,
exactly.
I respect a gamer. Exactly. And that's a great line.
That is a great line.
Just made that one up.
That's a Paul Maurice line right there. And what I will say too, so like, okay, we've talked about Bouchard. Obviously, he takes up a lot of oxygen on that blue line. Ekholm is back to be his partner. That's huge. He's probably not 100% and is on the wrong side of 30. I get that, but that's huge. Darnell Nurse was kind of like Seth Jones, like that acquisition. A lot of us were kind of down on Jones coming out of Chicago. I think everybody was down on Darnell Nurse, last year. And if you guys remember, McDavid backed him in the media. He's like, yeah, I'll take that. And publicly defended Nurse. And again, you look at the contract and all of that, but he's played a lot better this year. Case, like you mentioned, a guy like Mikkola. I look at Edmonton's blue line and I kind of compare him to a guy like Brett Kulak, like really underrated, can play in your top four, jump up in the rush. He's got a good shot, can make good plays and that sort of thing. And again, like, what a great story Klingberg has been, and Jake Wallman, a great ad from the San Jose Sharks at the deadline as well. And who played his ass off too before getting taken out of the lineup when Ekholm came back in was Troy Stecher, like playing in their top four beside Nurse, like hustling back to break up a breakaway or a 2-on-1 or whatever, that sort of thing. So look, I get it. Like, and I agree. Florida has the stronger blue line, but Edmonton's blue line, guys, I think just has this kind of next man up mentality. They've had it all year, and love the way that the Oilers captain has defended the way that they play defense and their blue line. And again, I'll say it again. In the last 3 third periods in that Dallas series, they held the Stars to 4 shots on net. I know the Dallas Stars aren't the Florida Panthers, and I don't think we're going to see statistics like that, but that's really impressive. Like, who would have thought that we'd be mentioning that statistic when it comes to the Edmonton Oilers? So just wanted to kind of wrap up my thoughts on Edmonton there by mentioning their blue line since we got into to Florida's blue line as well.
No, I'll agree with that. Like, Evan Bouchard has become an absolute gamer in the playoffs. This is me raising the hand and say that I am part of the party of absolutely underrating Brett Kulak at every step of the way. I have always been just
great player,
befuddled by that one, but yeah, he's been great. Jake Wallman is going to need a trip to the friggin' spa after the playoffs. I swear every time he's on the ice, he's blocking 2 shots a shift. It's like black and blue. But yeah, I mean, Darnell Nurse he's similar to Ekblad in the way that he's just hard to play against, and he is kind of blue collar in that way. He's not turning any heads by any means. I think he does have like a pretty negative goal differential. Not quite rivaling Morgan Riley, but it's around there.
Let's not talk about it.
That's part of the job of being the shutdown defender that has to play against the top line of every team. So I tip the hat to Edmonton's blue line as well, but
for sure.
It does seem very much, Harp, like you said, like a next man up mentality. And it feels like that for the forward group too. Like, who would have thought in 2025, guys like Kasperi Kapanen would be contributing to this team. Vasily Podkolzin was a castaway, Jeff Skinner scratched, but now playing in his first ever playoffs and could potentially win the cup the first time he gets to the dance. That would be pretty cool for your boy, Jeff Skinner, Harp. And just so many guys like who are stepping it up. Corey Perry, another guy.
At 40.
Doesn't look like he's 40 at all.
No.
He reinvented himself when he came to a point in his career where he realized he couldn't score at the same clip that he used to. And wow, like what a player. Like if every player did this when they turned 35 or whatever, the NHL would be very different. It would be an older league. It'd be an old man's league, but it's hard to do that.
Well, it is.
Clearly, but he's done it so perfectly and so gracefully. And so just so many contributors up front that, we're castaways from other teams.
Just to circle back here.
Yeah.
Jake Wallman is second in playoffs for block shots, 43, and Lindell is the only one ahead of him with 44. So he'll be leading by the end of this.
Good.
Chris Tanev still in the top 5 case?
Chris Tanev is 5th.
There we go.
There you go.
Played less games, but he's still there.
Oh, sorry. You said Lindell was number 1 on that list?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. No, good observation there for sure. Gosh, what was I going to say here? If you're a team looking to add this offseason, you know what I'm doing? I'm trying to steal as many players as I can who are available from these 2 teams. Like that's what I'm trying to do. I know that's kind of an off-season
cracked the code, Harp.
topic, but
you figured it out.
Genius.
Take the players from the good teams. All right, good.
The other thing I'll mention too, like what were we ripping on the Oilers all year for? Losing Broberg and Holloway. Oh, they're slower now. They don't have McLeod or Fogle. Well, they're a more veteran group. They are slower, but so are the Florida Panthers as well. Like I think Edmonton is just this year. They're just more of a team that just is focused on just grinding it out, rather than trying to. Yeah, they've got guys who can burn you. Like, and by the way, that goal that McDavid scored with Roope Hintz on his tail, clocked in at 35 kilometers an hour at top speed, and then. I think like any one of us would have gone flying into the boards after that, just casually drifts off. Nice stop. Just so clean, like insane. Anyway, but we were ripping the Oilers all year long for losing Broberg and Holloway on the offer sheets to the St. Louis Blues, and St. Louis, like good on them. They got 2 great players, but Chad, you mentioned him. Kasperi Kapanen, waiver claim from St. Louis, is the guy to get the series winner in round 2 against the Vegas Golden Knights. Like,
pretty cool.
Things just somehow come full circle in beautiful ways in sports. Again, I know we've mentioned it a few times here, but the fact that McDavid can do something that Gretzky and Crosby have. But you could think of 10 other things like in these playoffs alone and about these two teams. And that's why we love sports. Like it's unbelievable. And I can't say anything more other than the fact that like I just cannot wait for this rematch. I think it's going to be an absolute bloodbath, and I'm ready for Wednesday.
Oh yeah, a couple things before we wrap up. Harp, the one thing you mentioned about the Oilers, you said people were saying that they're slower now without Broberg and Holloway, and they're aging a little bit. Well, someone said a stat the other day that I'm remembering off the top of my head, and it was that 2 of the slowest players in the playoffs are playing in the finals. And what I mean by slowest is the fewest bursts over 20 miles per hour in terms of skating. Okay. And that's tracked by NHL Edge. I don't have it in front of me, but the only 2 players to not have a burst over 20 miles per hour in these playoffs are number 1, the 40-year-old that we just talked about, Corey Perry, and number 2, the very, very hurt Matthew Tkachuk.
Yes.
So 2 of the technically slowest players in the playoffs are playing in this series. So that's number 1.
Yeah.
And number 2, what I wanted to mention on our way out here is, who do you guys think is the favorite for the Conn Smythe? Because we all know Connor McDavid won it last year, even though his team lost. That rarely happens. And by the way, I still think he should have went out and accepted the trophy. I really do.
I've got no issue with that.
I know you don't, but call me an old school, call me a purist. I don't know, but I think he should have went out and got it. Who do you guys think is going to be the favorite? Is it McDavid, even if he loses again?
I don't know. I don't think it is. Honestly, I think this series, depending on how it goes, if Florida wins, it could be Officer Bob in the net. Like, I think he's played just like standout quality goaltending. And I don't think there's anyone else on his team that's like above and beyond anyone. So if I had to think in terms of Florida, I'd be going Bob. And I think that, McDavid's doing McDavid shit, but he's also still only 1 point ahead of Draisaitl. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone at this point is standing out to the point of I'm going to give them the Conn Smythe. This series is going to determine it.
And there were multiple guys in that Dallas series who you could say were their best players outside of McDavid and Draisaitl. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has been incredible, and he was very good in that series. And you look at Skinner, you look at Bouchard on the Florida side, you look at Bob, obviously. Barkov, like that play that he made on I forget, Orlov, like the play that he made to get by him, cut around, and then make that pass over to Verhaeghe. I'm sure you guys saw that. Like, just incredible. There's a guy right there that does not get enough credit. I feel like we haven't even mentioned him either in this episode. He's been incredible. And
by the way, point per game for him, and has the most difficult defensive task in all of hockey coming up right now. Try to stop McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yeah, exactly. And some of those defensemen that we talked about, like Ekblad has been excellent. Guy's going to get paid this summer too, by the way, if Florida can't keep him. But Jones has been terrific. Forsling, whatever. So I think there are a number of guys. I kind of think it's wide open, but we'll see how this series goes. And McDavid in particular just seems to always find a way to continue to elevate. So I can't wait. I can't wait, boys.
Yeah, really exciting. I think it goes McDavid, Draisaitl, Bouchard for Edmonton. I think that's probably fair.
Sure.
And then for Florida, probably goes Bob, Barkov, someone like maybe, I don't know. Like I really like Seth Jones' game. I don't think he's going to win the Conn Smythe, but
probably Bob Barkov. Bennett scored some big goals.
Yeah, Bennett has like 9 goals or something so far. So
Marchand too. We haven't really mentioned him. He's been terrific as well.
10 goals. Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, it could be. Bennett would probably be in the 3rd spot there. But for Bob, like, I feel like he's just been consistently good, right? But I feel like he hasn't needed to steal games this year like he did in years past. So
he had
Does
2
anyone
rough
move
games.
as
Yeah,
good as
sorry.
Officer Bob?
does anyone move? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Like,
I don't know. He's so fluid. He's so
it's just
smooth.
agile, fluid, side to side motion, like cut, like,
Yeah.
I just like it also feels like no movement's unnecessary, yet he's like all like can go
Yeah.
side to side so quick. He's just, I've really, and then you see him out of his equipment and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
There's-
It's like,
there's-
how is he that powerful?
There's nothing to him. Guy
Yeah.
loses like 10 pounds a game or whatever the heck it is. Like, it's crazy.
I don't understand how he's that powerful with his legs that small, like, or his body that, I guess his legs are probably disproportionately bigger than the rest of his body, but still.
Kind of look at prime Jonathan Quick. Same thing, right? Like, just super athletic. Like, you're looking at him maybe like a little too athletic, honestly. Like, just he would just
Yeah.
be swimming in the blue paint and but incredible.
That's why I made the no movements unnecessary comment for Bob, because Jonathan
Yeah.
Quick at times you're like,
Yeah.
man, maybe stay in the crease a little more. You don't have to work
Yeah.
so hard. But
Yeah.
Bob is really controlled. And sometimes, like, early in a game, you'll be able to tell if he's going to be dialed in or not. And like when you see it, like when he's tracking well, when he's on his toes, like moving side to side, making saves look easy, like you just know. But yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like he's been really good. Is it Conn Smythe good? I don't know. We'll have to see what happens.
well,
in
the
the
favorite
finals.
right now is McDavid, but I'm saying at the
Yeah.
end of this series, it could be Bob, depending on how he plays.
For sure. But I'm just saying, like, playing a bit of devil's advocate here. You guys know I love Bob. I really advocated for him last year to win the Conn Smythe before obviously not having a great final. I mean, ultimately winning, but, you know, the numbers dropped a bit going into the final. That's what McDavid will do to you. But, yeah, I mean, I think he's been good. I don't know if he's been great. We'll have to see. I think it's still McDavid, but if Draisaitl gets, 8 points this series and McDavid gets 4, why not Dry? That's another one. So
God, Draisaitl, like, is there anybody better than him at firing pucks in the back of the net on bad angle looks?
yeah,
Like, it's crazy. Like, he could be past the goal line on, like, in the corner and still fire one in. Like, it's crazy.
he just gets lost, eh? Like he
He
has
does.
that talent to just disappear
Yeah.
and then bang.
Anything else you guys want to add here before we put a bow on this thing?
That's it for me. Wish we were in Tamarindo watching the final again. That was a blast last year. But
I that's a good point. I was thinking about that today, and that was crazy. Maybe we'll have to do an impromptu trip down to Edmonton. That'd be tough, but that would be awesome.
yeah.
Alrighty, well, fellas, here we go. Rematch of the Stanley Cup Finals from last year. Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. Game 1 in Edmonton on Wednesday. Looking forward to it. Thanks for listening to episode 244. We'll talk to you again soon.